Low testosterone is a mental health issue, and not enough people look at it this way. Here's a stat that people who prescribe testosterone, like myself, will not be surprised by, but likely may catch you off guard. Data published in JAMA Psychiatry, so a pretty well-established journal, followed men 45 and older with no prior history of depression. Those with low testosterone had a 21% incidence of developing depression over the next 2 years. That's compared with 7% in men with normal testosterone levels. That's 3 times the incidence. And it's not because those men were weaker or more prone to mental illness. It's because of a number on a lab report that most people just don't even check, even when they have the symptoms appropriate for looking into deeper. So as part of our Male Mental Health Awareness Month series, let me describe a patient to you. Persistent low mood. Irritability that he and his family can't really explain. Brain fog. Low motivation or zero motivation. Loss of competitive drive. The thing that used to define him is now just gone. His sleep is off. His confidence has just gradually eroded. He's still showing up. He's still productive at work through sheer willpower. But something fundamental has changed and nobody can really put their finger on it. Once he gets home, it's time for a nap on the couch. Does this sound like depression? Absolutely. And it's often how it gets diagnosed. And it's also how it's often treated, with antidepressants that, in this specific patient, are going to be addressing some of the symptoms while completely missing the underlying driver. I've treated nearly 1,000 men for low testosterone. That overlap between untreated hypogonadism and undertreated mental health is something I can't really unsee. Here's something that you probably do know, and that is the population trend of testosterone levels. There was a 2020 study in Reproductive Biology and Endocrinology, pretty major journal, that analyzed testosterone data from over 102,000 men between 2006 and 2019. And they found a highly significant, age-independent decline in testosterone levels across most age groups. And this was not explained by the increasing obesity epidemic in our country, in the world. Something structural in our environment and lifestyle is driving this gradual decline. You do a quick search and you'll hear dozens of stories, from people like RFK Jr. to Rhonda Patrick, to Joe Rogan, to serious academics in this field like urologists and endocrinologists. This tells you one thing. It isn't just one thing. It's likely multiple factors, including stress, poor sleep, metabolic disease, substance use, environmental exposures, genetics, and more. This is how I present it to all of my patients when we're discussing their low levels. One more study. Earlier U.S. longitudinal data from 991 Air Force veterans that were followed over 20 years confirmed a population-level testosterone decline since the 1980s. That again was independent of body weight. Men in their 50s of moderate weight dropped roughly 100 nanograms per deciliter, so that's a good chunk there, over 2 decades. What this means practically. Reference ranges on your labs for normal levels are established from the current patients, give or take a couple of years here. What that means is that a man that is at a low end of normal today would likely be substantially lower than what we considered normal a generation ago. The most important part here, let's not conflate what is epidemiologically normal versus what is biologically optimal. So range is usually somewhere in the 200s to 700s nanograms per deciliter. You're going to tell me that a 35-year-old with total testosterone of 275 is normal? Come on, it's ridiculous. And also really overlooks the importance of free testosterone, but we'll talk about it later. So where does testosterone connect with mental health? Testosterone and estrogen in our bodies are active in the brain, and this helps it to produce and release neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, and GABA. In the brain, these hormones promote neuroplasticity, so it's brain rewiring. They enhance cognitive function, and they have measurable antidepressive effects when levels are adequate. When those levels fall, those effects diminish. So again, symptoms of low testosterone and symptoms of clinical depression that we memorize in medical training overlap almost completely. Low energy, impaired concentration, loss of interest in hobbies and activities that you like doing, sleep disruption, reduced libido. That's not totally in the normal depressive symptom list, but it still goes along with depression, and emotional flatness. For a lot of guys, you can satisfy criteria for major depressive disorder with the total testosterone level between 300 and 400 nanograms per deciliter. Likely, nobody will even check that number if you're coming in for depression. Even if they had, they may even then say, that's in the normal range, cut you loose, without even considering the vastly more important free testosterone level that doesn't even always correlate well with that total testosterone. For reasons that are in other videos, I'm not going to spend 20 minutes here. It's not the point of this one. Let me give you a few reasons why it is often missed. Number one, there are training gaps in primary care and even other specialties. Caution around TRT has shifted to avoidance, likely due to lack of confidence in prescribing, as well as concerns about testosterone being a controlled substance and not wanting to even mess with that. Because of this, testosterone labs aren't drawn and antidepressants are prescribed instead. Or there are some doctors who won't prescribe it on philosophical grounds. They're stating that your bad lifestyle has caused this problem and you should fix that first, with the finger wagging and everything. I actually used to kind of be this way. But that was until I realized just how much easier it is to fix a lifestyle when you don't feel completely miserable. Next point, that reference range problem again. Normal is population-based, not symptom-based. So a man with a total testosterone of 280 is technically fine by the numbers and may very well be experiencing every symptom of testosterone deficiency. The final reason I'm going to give you today is presentation bias. The classic depression checklist doesn't capture the testosterone deficiency picture. The irritability, the motivational collapse, the cognitive, slowing brain fog. It gets attributed to stress or aging or something else, not hormonal. As my practice and this channel are largely prehabilitation, so getting ready for surgeries, let's quickly dive into the surgical relevance here because it is absolutely appropriate and the reason why I do so much TRT in my practice. Testosterone directly affects muscle protein synthesis, so building muscle, as well as wound healing, bone mineralization, and immune system function. Every one of these actually matter significantly in that perioperative period, so the period right around surgery. Indirectly, of course, testosterone affects motivation, and a good prehabilitation program requires sufficient motivation to buckle down for that 6 to 8 weeks for meaningful preparation. One last study, I promise, no more data. It was of 175 surgical patients, and it found that those with low testosterone had post-operative lengths of stay of 4.2 days compared with 1.4 days of those with normal testosterone levels. Now, this is highly confounded, so don't take that as entirely cause and effect here because other disorders like poorly controlled diabetes, inflammatory conditions, sleep apnea, those will lower testosterone as well and definitely slow your recovery from surgery. So there's, confounders here, but the point is there's a strong association here. And things that cause one problem cause another, so address it all at once. Overall, a man with unaddressed low testosterone going into a surgery for their joint or spine surgery, they're not starting from the same baseline as someone whose testosterone is normal. That guy is starting way behind the line before that first incision is even made. So how do I normally evaluate my patients here and make that clear connection for them? Let's go back to the broader picture and not just for guys about to have surgery. Now, I'm not saying that every man with clinical depression has low testosterone. I'm not saying TRT is first line for depression either. I'm just saying that men in that 35 to 65-year-old demographic with these symptoms together, that hormonal picture should be an early part of the workup, and it often isn't. Now, the funny part is that when someone has depression, we are taught to rule out medical causes first. Unfortunately, these tests, though, normally kind of just stop at thyroid testing, anemia workups, and things like that. But it absolutely should include testosterone testing if it's indicated based on the symptoms. How I usually start: number one, lifestyle, both in getting a history and counseling here. So sleep, resistance training, their body composition, their alcohol consumption and other substances. That's fundamental, regardless of testosterone or anything else for depression. But at the same time, if it's indicated, I'll be ordering some labs. That's going to include total testosterone, free testosterone, super important, as well as LH, FSH, and SHBG. Those are separate hormones and proteins that are really important in understanding the larger picture. Again, other videos covering this a couple times, go there. And you want these drawn in the morning, especially for younger men, because the diurnal variation, so the levels, how they change across the day, that flattens out as we age. So the flip side is true, where the younger the patient, the more likely their levels are going to be highest in the morning and drop off significantly as the day goes on. You want to assess it appropriately at the high point. Also, if you're trying to get insurance to cover testosterone, they usually require that hormonal testing is done before 11 a.m. typically. Now, interpret these numbers alongside the symptoms, not in isolation. I've had patients with solid total testosterone levels in the 700s, but their free testosterone, the one that matters here, is profoundly low. This is due to high SHBG levels, which may have other causes that still warrant their own workup. But if that free testosterone is that low, it doesn't matter what their total is, especially if the symptoms correspond with that well. So this is somebody who needs further workup to identify the cause of that disparity while also still treating the issue directly. One final point here, especially for the younger guys, but I'm not ruling out the older guys looking at you, Al Pacino. You want to address fertility questions directly with men because many ways of raising testosterone will negatively affect fertility. although some of them will actually improve fertility. So that decision-making process is really important. So as a guy, if you've been told that your labs are normal, but you feel anything but normal, especially if that earlier symptom cluster sounds uncomfortably familiar, you want to find a physician who will look at your symptoms alongside your numbers and take both seriously together. And again, if surgery is anywhere in your near-term future, that conversation needs to happen now. The preparation window before surgery is one of the most underused opportunities in medicine. And your hormonal levels are part of that. Your metabolic health is a part of that. And your mental health is a huge part of that. It all connects. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. It helps more than you know. I'll see you next time.